Welcome to CS Week Success Stories, second Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern webinar series. These webinars are the top-rated workshops from our attendees for Conference 38, held last May in San Antonio. I am John Sild, and I'm with CS Week, and I'll be your moderator today. Amber Weens will be our host. CS Week and Conference 39 will be April 27th through May 1st, 2015 at the Charlotte Convention Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to remind you that registration is now open. This program is being recorded and available for playback along with our other archived presentations. You can find it under the Educational Venues Webinars link on our website. On the webinar homepage, click on the link titled CS Week Second Tuesday Webinars or CS Week Success Stories. You will then be taken to the list of archived presentations for you to review. Attendees are encouraged to upload questions in the Q&A panel on the lower right of your screen. Be sure to click the All tab and make sure that I see your question. We will wait until the end of the presentation to answer the questions. Today's program is Self-Service Reconnection Processes, presented by our friend Keith Jennings, Director IT at Alagasco. Keith has over 25 years of experience in the utility industry. His areas of responsibility include ERP, software, applications, CRB, IVR systems, and PMO activities. Keith has a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Mr. Jennings is also a member of the CS Week Planning Committee, and we are welcoming him today, and we thank you for your time, Keith. Take it away.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate CS Week allowing me the opportunity to share our story here today, and I appreciate everyone that is in attendance today and look forward to the interaction with the group and to hearing some of the questions that you might have about the process that we've developed. It certainly was an interesting journey for us. Sorry, I got on the wrong slide. To create this self-service reconnection process, just a little bit about Alabama Gas. We are the largest natural gas utility in the state of Alabama. We have over 420,000 customers serving 200 communities throughout 30 counties. We're in the middle third of the state, servicing Birmingham, Alabama, which is the largest city in the state of Alabama, and the surrounding community going down to Montgomery, over to Opelika, where the Auburn University is located, and over in west to Tuscaloosa, where the University of Alabama sits. Our project to introduce the reconnection process into the system was actually part of a much larger project that we call the XES project for Excellence in Customer Service. And as part of that project, we were really looking to streamline our customer service throughout all channels. And in order to do that, we went in and we took our IVR and replaced it. We are an SAP shop, so we were using SAP's UCES, Utility Customer Electronic System, to manage our customer portal. And we wanted to provide functionality that was available to not only our external customers, but to our internal customers in the contact center as well. One of the issues that we had run into was the number of third-party vendors that we had as part of the whole interaction channel in IVR and the customer web portal, and many of those vendors tended not to play well together or to play well with us. We had a third-party e-bill provider that would not upgrade or upload our customer payments, so when a customer went back to look at their bill, they never saw a change in the balance owed regardless of payments or other activities on their account. We had a third-party payment processor that did not show on any of the customer channels, so it was really just a situation where customers could not get the information that they really wanted to need and access through our customer channels. So we rebuilt all of those channels and provided that functionality to our internal users as well. We also, as part of the XES project, implemented SAP's ERMS solution, the Email Routing Response System, and our emails now route into SAP and go to an agent just as a phone call creates a screen pop for the agents, which has been a very positive solution in terms of customer response to those types of interactions from outside the company. And we wanted to make sure that we synchronize options across channels in order to make sure that no matter which direction the customer came into Alagasco, they were able to get the same answer, the same information, the same solution. And in each of the channels, we tried to provide the options that made sense, either through IVR, customer portal, or in talking to an agent, to be there regardless of how the customer wanted to interact with us. We also had multiple IVR implementations in place where we had our help desk in the information technology department using one IVR. We had a marketing group that had a separate IVR and our contact center on a third IVR, and we replaced all of those solutions with one single solution, which was the Business Communication Management module from SAP. On to the reconnection process. I'm sure most of you have used Amazon's web page or booked airline tickets or something like that, where you have a process where you make your selection and move forward to pay and enter delivery details and that type of thing. And we use the same thought process in creating this self-service reconnection, where a customer can go in, they generate a quote that tells them the balance that's due in order to process the reconnection. They move forward to a payment page where they enter the payment information, credit card number is what is required, and then they're actually able to schedule their appointment for that reconnection order. We connect straight back into SAP to ensure that we have real-time, up-to-date information. Any payments that were to have posted through Lockbox or any other channel would be updated in SAP, so the reconnection quote is based on that real-time information. As most utilities do, we have PSC regulations that tell us what type of deposit we can require from a customer, and those requirements change based on how much customer history we have on the particular premise, the number of disconnections that the customer may have had in the last 12 months. And so we calculate those real time based on the PSC delivered rules. We also have requirements as to what balances we're able to collect. Obviously, all utility balances are collectible, but service revenue, jobbing is not a collectible balance on a disconnection, and we have reconnection fees that the customer is required to pay in order to be able to have their service restored. We do require that a customer pays with a credit card on any reconnection situation, and that again is through all channels, whether it's an agent, a IVR, or web portal payment. But we maintain all of the credit card information outside of the SAP environment through a secure channel to ensure that we maintain PCI compliance, and we tokenize those credit card values so that there's never a situation where we have compromising data that can be exposed or removed from the system. Customers and agents actually use the same web portal in order to process the payments and do the reconnection, and there's a reason for that, and I'll talk a little bit more when we get into some of the screenshots as to why we decided to use the exact same screens and functions to ensure that we took care of the customer in the same way. In order to actually calculate a reconnection amount or the deposit, it's a fairly cumbersome thing for the agents to have to do. They have to go back, look at 12 months worth of history, make a determination as to whether or not there are at least 9 months worth of invoices that have a regular bill cycle included on them, that's between 22 and 44 days, whether there have been additional disconnects that the customer has experienced in the last 12 months of history. So prior to implementing the reconnection process, it was approximately at least a 5 to 7 minute customer interaction just to make the calculations for the balance owed and the deposit requirements. Using the reconnection process that we've installed, it's approximately 1 second to deliver the quote back to the agent or to deliver the quote through the IVR or the web portal. So that obviously has reduced call handle time dramatically in these situations, and because the functionality is available to the customer through the IVR or the web portal, it's given us availability to have a 24/7, 365-day operation to send that information back out to the customer. The reconnection function through the customer portal, the IVR, or through the agent only shows up if the customer is disconnected for non-pay. So all regular customers who are in good standing and have not been subject to a disconnect never see the reconnection function and never have the reconnection option through the IVR. So we do not force customers to hear that option or to see that option if they are not a disconnected customer. This is actually a customer view of our web portal, and this customer has been disconnected. Beneath the My Account, you see a message up there that says your service has been disconnected. Click here to reconnect service. Down the left side of the screen at the bottom, you see a reconnection service option. Those are the options that are only available to customers that have been disconnected. This is the customer portal that we built through the XCS project, and as many utilities have, we have the ability to view bills and payment history, usage history that's also downloadable into an Excel spreadsheet. So many of our customers go in, download that information to do year-to-year comparisons. Manage payment methods. They can actually save bank accounts or credit card information. That those values are all tokenized and saved outside of the system. And at any point in the future, if they've saved those payment options, they can use those to make payments through any channel, whether that's through an agent, the IVR, or the customer portal. We also have text alerts that we distribute to customers to let them know a bill is coming due or that they have a service order that has been scheduled, auto pay, average monthly billing, which is our levelized billing. So we've implemented many different options in the customer portal, and those are all available to agents as well. This is the agent view, and this is ICWeb, SAP's contact center solution, and if you look down the left side of this navigation pane, you will see that there are some different options underneath that Alagasco emblem where the agents have selections that they can make, but inside the sub-view to the right is exactly the same view that we just saw. The customer's message is there that the service has been disconnected. The agent can click on the little icon that says click here to reconnect service, or at the bottom of this screen where the view full, you would see the reconnection service, reconnect service option on the navigation button at the bottom of that page. So it is exactly the same view and exactly the same system that the customers and the agents both use. The same function modules that have been built for the web portal are also the function modules that are used through the IVR. The quotes include receivables, reconnection, and deposit fees, but more than just the receivables, we also have the ability to look at other accounts that may belong to the customer that are past due. So if we have a customer that has additional past due accounts or amounts on other accounts, we can collect those in addition to the amounts that they were disconnected for. So the system calculates all of those and presents one total fee that the customer is required to pay to restore the service. The maximum deposits are calculated for any customer who's been disconnected 3 times in a 12-month period, and it really does not matter if a customer has been eligible for disconnect 3 times in a 12-month period. They actually have to have reached the disconnection point where they actually had their meter valved off in order to meet that maximum deposit threshold. That's all calculated real time for agents and for the IVR in the customer web portal. This is the first page of the 3-step process, and the first thing that a customer would hear if they were logging into the IVR, they would hear this balance that is due, and it is read out as the existing deposit, the new deposit requirement account, what that adjustment is, and then the outstanding balance with the reconnection fee and the total to process. Customers can go in and make this selection, get this quote, and exit out of the system, come back at a later time, get another quote. In some cases, they will call the IVR or possibly even speak to a customer service agent, and unless there is an update to the account, this will always calculate at the same amount no matter how many times the customer comes in through the portal. That for us was a true problem in the past, in that customers would shop for an amount, and in some cases they might have an agent who forgot to include the reconnection fee, or one that maybe calculated the deposit in a different method, and there would be different amounts that were quoted, and it caused quite a bit of inconsistency in some of the information that customers were receiving, and this certainly was something that we were truly trying to resolve to ensure that we collected the appropriate balances as well as treated the customer in a fair and equitable manner that met all of our PSC requirements. This particular customer, and the reason that we're showing the quote again on this page, actually has an additional account that was disconnected or was not necessarily for non-pay, but disconnected, inactive, and has a past due balance. So in this case, this is a customer that we've gone back and we are going to collect on an additional account that is not related to the address that was disconnected for non-pay at this point in time. This has really helped us quite a bit in a number of different ways to manage bad debt and ensure that we don't have excessive write-offs for customers who leave and come back in, and maybe the customer contact center agent does not collect the past due balances on other accounts. We do only collect through credit or debit card payments. If a customer is coming through a web portal, they can save their payment method. They can set themselves up for automatic payment in full. We do require that the customers pay in full in order to have their service reconnected. There are no options to override the amount unless they talk to a contact center agent, and those agents do have the capability to override the amount. We do monitor those to see at what points contact center agents are overriding the amounts and what reasons that they may use to do that override. We do have payment terms and conditions message that's included at the bottom of the payment screen so that we can ensure that we meet all of the requirements necessary to fulfill the credit card processing rules and regulations. This is the payment screen, and as you see here, there is a payment method drop-down, but if you were to use that drop-down icon, there would be no options. There is not another bank account option that's underneath here. One of the things that we did in building out this process, the reconnection quote or the reconnection fees that we charge was new processing, new functionality that we developed to create this process. The next couple of steps are actually steps that we leveraged from other functionality. So if we were to click on the Make a Payment icon over to the left-hand side on the navigation fee, you would see this exact same page to make a payment through. So we were able to take the functionality developed to allow customers to make payments and just insert it into this three-step process in much the same way as we'll see when we move to the scheduling the reconnection order. We have a reschedule component related to our service orders so that customers who have a turn on, a turn off, a service order, any type of work that they may have can actually come in through the IVR or the web portal and schedule their appointment for a different date or time, all the way up to the point that the technician is dispatched to their home. So that's been a very beneficial thing for us as customers get home, find out that someone's not available first thing in the morning to make an appointment. They actually can go in that night when we don't necessarily have contact center agents available and reschedule their order for a more convenient time. As part of this process and as part of our order process, we also use the BCM module to help build call lists so that we can do reminder calls to our customers, whether they do have a disconnection or a reconnection order to be worked, or whether it is a turn on, a turn off, or some other type of service work. And inside of the automated call that we generate and send to the customer, they have the capability to reschedule from inside that automated call. So the same functionality that we use, same function module that we use to allow the order scheduling and the order rescheduling, we insert inside of the automated call. So we have leveraged that development that was done one time to use in multiple places, and that has been an excellent way and a methodology, if you will, that we've created to come up with a standard way of doing development so that there's more than just the single process that we're trying to create, that we actually are able to leverage that when we move forward. So the customer is required to enter the card type and the card number and the CVV code, and as we tokenize that information, it is checked against credit card databases, saved in an external system that is PCI compliant, checked, gets an authorization code, and the authorization code is returned to us so that we know we've got a valid credit or debit card that is being used to make this payment. This is just the bottom half of the credit card information page that the customer has entered. In this particular instance, we've marked to save the payment method for future use. So if this customer were to log back in at a later date and time, they would see this credit card saved on their account. All that they would see is the last 4 digits of the credit card number so that they could identify what card it was that they had saved on their account, and the payment terms and conditions that, from a legal perspective, we were required to insert along with the agreement message down at the bottom. If customer can always cancel at this point and come back in and walk back through the process, log out of the portal, come in through the IVR, they'll get the same message, the same options, again, through the IVR. Once they have made payment, they will go to another page where we schedule the order. They select their own date and time based on the availability that we have in the system to schedule the work orders. We collect all their contact information. That is what we use to do those contact calls or the reschedule calls, and it creates the reconnection notification and gives them a confirmation number for their credit card confirmation that will show up on their credit card bill later on in the month when that's received. This is the schedule page, and as you see on the bottom right-hand side, you see a number of different slots. We have different areas of availability. We have an 8 to 12 and a 12 to 4 time slot that are available, or a customer can select just an all-day appointment window. Those can change based on, you may log in this afternoon and only have the ability to select an 8 to 8 appointment window for tomorrow, but it could be the following day that you have availability in the 8 to 12 window, as well as the 12 to 4 and 8 to 8 time slot. Once the customer has made the selection and they save, it will automatically fill in the appointment date and the appointment time slot on the left-hand side. You can actually see the confirmation here. This is their credit card confirmation number that they have at the top, and that's what will show up on their credit card statement later on in the month when that's received. The customer will get an email if we have an email address, and in cases where they are logging in through the customer portal, then certainly we would have their email address, and they will get a reminder call the day before the notification is to be worked. And they can reschedule that appointment when they get that reminder call, or they can log back into the portal and reschedule that call all the way up until the point that the order is dispatched and the technician is ready to be on his way to their home for the reconnection. This is a shot of the service order history screen. This is the screen that they would go to reschedule an order. This is simply the confirmation that the reconnection order has been scheduled and the date and time that it's been selected to put that in. They would see order statuses if they were to log back on and try to reschedule their order at a later point in time. The customer can actually see what that order status is, and that again is based on real-time data and real-time information, and can actually change based on what is happening with dispatch and the service technicians. So as just kind of a recap of the entire process, we made sure that we synchronize these activities through all the different channels so the customer had a consistent message and a consistent quote through all channels. That has been really a major part of what we were trying to achieve in implementing the entire XCS project, but particularly for this reconnection process because of the cumbersomeness that we had with the old process and the inconsistency in the quotes that were given. We do collect all past due balances in full, especially if they go through a self-service process. Agents have some rules as to when and why they can override the amounts. The payments are processed securely, posted real time. If a customer goes back to the My Account page after they've made their full payment, they will actually see their balance revert to $0. So as they make that credit card payment, it immediately updates our system, and that is reflected in the IVR for the customer portal automatically. We do run this 24/7, 365, and customers are using the IVR and the customer web portal at all times of the day and night. If they do call in after work, our office hours run till about 5:15. They can schedule reconnection for the next day as long as appointment availability is there, and in most cases, there are almost always availability slots for at least an 8 to 8 methodology or time slot. We automatically create what SAP refers to as interaction records, but customer notes on the account when the reconnection quote is accessed, along with the details of the quote so that any agent can go back and read those quotes and see them, see where there might have been an update to the account, whether that's some type of credit that was issued to the account or a payment was made through some other channel than through the IVR or the web portal. Customers don't have to go through the whole process. They can stop straight at the reconnection quote and go find a way to figure out how they can collect the money to make their payment, come back in, go through the quote process again. 61% of our quotes were through self-service options. That's really probably a percent or two short. I believe we're actually at 62 and some change on the reconnection quotes, but even the balance of the quotes that are delivered by agents have gone from a 5 to 7 minute calculation down to about 1 second. So that's been a huge time saver for us. We implemented this in July, the end of July of 2013, and inside of that 18-month time window, I believe we've had customers and agents access the quote functionality about 87,000 times. So you can see pretty quickly the kind of time savings that we've got in moving from agents processing 100% of those calls to only having to process 38% of those, and even the 38% that they are forced to process through the agents, it's a one click and they get the full amount. Bad debt certainly has been impacted by the fact that we're able to collect that full balance, and the customer really has no option to override that. Reconnection fees were another issue that agents seem to forget pretty frequently to add that reconnection charge. Customers would call in, they would make a payment, assume that they had their balance completely paid off and they were up to date, only to find that the reconnection fee had been left off of the quote, and in many cases we were having to reverse those reconnection charges and were unable to collect those because of what a customer had been quoted in the past. That now is automatically assessed by the system, so we don't miss those again in the future. The deposit requirements, obviously the PSC is very concerned that we treat our customers fairly and equitably, but they also are concerned to make sure that we are protected against bad debt, and the deposit assessment being calculated automatically and consistently for all customers was very important to us. There have been situations in the past, in this past 18 months, where we had a customer who may have been subject to a max deposit in the past, and when we did a deposit recalculation after disconnection, they actually were eligible for a refund for part of their deposit. So we have seen that happen in a number of different instances. Last year at CS Week, the number on the percent of reconnection processed through self-service channels was about 42%. So in the time period between then and there has been an increase of about 3%, and almost 45%. We are collecting 100% of the balance. The customer is back to a point where they have several weeks worth of, or several months worth of rides, so that they're in good stead with the utility, and that's been a real positive thing to get the customer post-disconnect back into a situation where they're not having to worry with payment arrangements. They're in good stead with the utility, and as long as they manage their account appropriately, they seems to certainly help the customer to handle their account much more appropriately. Once the payment is made, the reconnection is finished, we add additional notes to the account about the reconnection time and window, appointment window, so that agents can go back and easily see what was scheduled by the customer and through what channel the execution came from. Certainly, the automated process has saved us a considerable amount of time and helped with bad debt tremendously. It's been probably one of the most successful processes that we've ever put in place here at Alagasco, and almost more importantly, it's kind of opened our eyes up to what some of the potential savings can be in leveraging functionality throughout all different channels, looking at transactions that make sense to put into a self-service type situation, or to build an automated approach for the agents so that they don't have to take excess time in going to multiple screens throughout the system in order to do different calculations. All the quotes and requirements, giving the agents the ability to exercise some discretion, but to ensure that we do collect the appropriate reconnection fees and the appropriate balances without having to determine which amounts are actually collectible and which ones are not collectible from a disconnect perspective has been extremely positive for us. And our customers now being able to see the updates and hear the updates through the IVR in real time and know that payments are being processed immediately, that it's updating their account, they aren't concerned that some other action is going to be taken on the account, has really changed our customers' perspective in using a lot of these self-service processes. So this has been truly an extremely valuable process put in place for us, along with all of the additional functionality that we did as part of the XCS project. And I do see that we've got a couple of questions over here on the side, so I'm just going to kind of scroll back up to the top, and we'll just go one by one. It was a business. So the first question is, why are only credit cards accepted, and do you charge a fee to use a credit card? And that really was just a business decision that in the past, not necessarily recently or not as part of the XCS project, they made a determination that for customers who were disconnected, that we would not take checks for those payments. At that point in time, we would accept cash, but we, at a point about 3 years ago, closed down several of our offices that took payments. So at that point, we moved to a credit card only policy for managing disconnected accounts. So when we put this automated process in, we stayed with that business decision, which was to only accept credit cards. But as part of the decision to implement this functionality and to manage credit card payments within the system, instead of using third-party services, which we had to interface the payment files back into the system in order to update accounts, we made the decision to not charge fees. So we went from charging a fee a year and a half ago to no fee, which was a very positive thing for the customer, something that the customers really appreciated, because that convenience fee just didn't seem fair to the customer in their eyes. And it was something that we didn't make anything off of. It was just something that the companies that we were using for processing required. So we do not charge a fee, and we've actually found that our processing costs have gone down based on fees that we were having to pay to external agents and to our e-bill provider that also allowed customers to put credit cards on their accounts and process credit card payments that we really couldn't see. It was blind to us. It took place in their system, so we never used it. The next question, how do you track the agent overrides on the reconnect amounts? Do you use a report based on the contacts from the amounts or another method? We actually save those records into a table that we created in SAP, and the report is based on that table that tracks those amounts and those changes. So it is a report that we built based on a table that we built in order to supply that to the supervisors in the contact center so that they can go back and talk to agents. There is a general level of acceptability that they use with most of the agents to track those changes, and quite honestly, it's one of those things that we were very concerned about when we gave the agents that capability, but they've done a really fantastic job in managing those accounts and really using their decision-making in an appropriate manner, so that it has not been an issue for us to have agents that really had to be reprimanded or gone back and had additional training to understand why the customer is being charged for those amounts. So we do use the reports, but it's not created some of the issues that we were somewhat concerned with. How did you create such tightly coupled credit card payment integration with a third party? This is actually a company, as I mentioned earlier, we're an SAP shop, and there was a company that had been working with SAP to create this integration, so it wasn't necessarily something new for SAP. So that was the reason really for the selection of the company, and it's a company called Paymetric that provides this service for a number of different SAP customers. And I have seen this type of integration. One of the things that I might mention is that our web portal portion of the project was actually a joint project between another gas utility in Denver and a consulting company called Cyber. So they actually helped to build the web portal for Alagasco and the other utility in Colorado. And the other utility already had an integrated payment solution that they had created with just another bank. So that is available out there, but we selected Paymetric and chose them partially for their tokenization product that they had as part of their service offerings, their capability to house those numbers and return that token. And we have since gone on to tokenize all PII data, so we no longer have there's no Social Security numbers in our system, there are no driver's license numbers, there are no business tax IDs. Those are all tokenized values, and we leverage Paymetric, and we knew that that was something that we wanted to move forward with to make sure that all of our customer information was protected, and that was one of the reasons that we selected Paymetric as our processing vendor, was because we knew they had that capability. Do you pass the credit card processing fee to the customer? And again, that answer is no. We've negotiated a very positive rate for us, and being able to eliminate so many of our third-party vendors has actually been a real win for us. Do customers have the opportunity to cancel the payment once the Reconnect service order has been placed? If so, what happens if that payment is canceled? The answer is they do not have the capability on their own to cancel the payment. If they were to determine that they were not going to reconnect for whatever reason that might be, and that they wanted to reverse that, they would have to speak with an agent in order to be able to cancel that payment and cancel the reconnection. And they could select another reconnect window and push that notification out, but they don't actually have the ability to just cancel the reconnect order. There is, in the system as part of the payment processing, the capability to go in and schedule a payment so that a customer, not necessarily related to a reconnection, but just for a normal payment processing. So somebody could log into our system today and set up a payment through bank account or credit card for, say, next Monday, and then come back in and cancel that payment. So the capability is there for normal payments, but for a reconnection, once the reconnection has been processed and they get all the way to the end, then they do have to speak to an agent. Is there an override for order times? And I'm not sure exactly what the question is, whether it's the agent overriding a selection or if it's the customer overriding. And the answer is really, I think, in either case, no. The availability that is presented is based on our automated dispatch system and the scheduling monitor that they have built in there. There is quite a bit of availability that is built into that function, so that it is extremely rare that someone would log into the system even at 10 o'clock at night and not be able to schedule a reconnect order for the next day. So it really isn't something that tends to create a lot of problems, but if they were to call an agent first thing in the morning and say that they had to get their gas turned on that day, there are ways for the agents to process that. There's really not a way for the customer to process that. So in that particular instance, they would need to speak to an agent to have a same-day reconnect if you would be placed. Not sure if that completely answers the question, but hopefully that sends it in the right direction. Very nice comment. Congratulations on a great implementation. I can see the value it brings. I certainly appreciate that. And some follow-up questions. How much call volume did it decrease coming in? Do you have a separate credit call center? How did you get buy-in from the field, and how long did it take to implement? So one at a time. How much call volume did it decrease coming in? Our agents are actually only having to answer I think it's about 40% of the calls that come into the IVR. I believe that was at about 48%. Again, I'm in IT. I'm not in the contact center field, so some of these numbers are coming from what I remember seeing in reports in the past, but those numbers are, I think, are pretty solid. So it has been certainly for this particular process. In the past, 100% of these calls went to the agents, and now that we've implemented the reconnection process, they're answering about 38% of the calls for quotations, and they're processing about 55% of the completed reconnection orders, but still in a far shorter time period. So it's been a huge impact to the call center and to the calls that they answer. And one of the things that we're trying to do, and we have implemented a couple of other processes that have added a lot of value to the contact center, but we've got several other processes, including move-ins and transfers, that we're in the midst of working on to automate those and make them available where it makes sense. In some cases it would be hard to do through the IVR, but certainly very, very possible through the customer web portal for the customer to process 100% and completely a transfer from one premise to another. So we're in the works on some of those to provide the agents the opportunity to really answer the calls for the customer. It's just not practical for them to be able to process everything in real time. Do you have a separate credit call center? We do not. All the same agents answer all the questions, whether they're related to any type of credit situation. We do have some back office personnel that if there were a particularly difficult situation or some truly extenuating circumstances that they might send somebody to. But generally speaking, our contact center agents, especially the most experienced contact center agents, would handle all of these calls. How did you get buy-in from the field? We had actually gone through a pretty major analysis several years ago to look at disconnects and to look at bad debt and how we could manage those more effectively. And a lot of the buy-in really occurred back at that point in time. So we had made a change from field collections to no collections in the field, and that took a little while for the service technicians to get used to, and they were not particularly crazy about it, but the buy-in for most of this had actually occurred on the front end. And once we got to the point where we actually automated this process and gave the customers the ability to go in, make their payment, and reconnect, even if they were getting turned off right at 5 o'clock, the agents were very much into, the field service technicians were very much in favor of that. So that was really a pretty simple thing to do. How long did it take to implement? The XCS project was about an 8-month project for us to do. It did contain much, much more than just this reconnection process. We did take back the credit card processing, bring all of that in-house, create all the web capabilities, payment arrangements, take back over e-bill management so that we actually send out the notifications ourselves and manage the invoice images inside of our systems where they were all managed by a third party. So there were just many, many components related to the XCS project, and the reconnection process that we implemented was really just a small portion, but certainly a very, very important portion of our XCS project. Our scheduling options presented to the customer via the IVR. We actually read out the availability dates and the time windows, but we don't go out past 3 days on the initial read. So if the customer calls in, they may get an availability window for tomorrow from 8 to 8, then on Thursday from 8 to 12, 12 to 4, 8 to 8, and then we would read them Friday's options and stop there with a message that if they need further options to press 1 or press 2 and move forward. So we give them 3 days worth of options. How do you handle fees that have been assessed to accounts for reconnect if the consumer does not reconnect? We really don't assess a reconnection fee unless the account reconnects. Now, if a customer, for whatever reason, decides not to reconnect and they reconnect in the future, even if it's at another premise, the system actually knows that they've been disconnected at a previous premise, and it will carry that reconnection fee with them, so that even if the agent doesn't see that in the future, it will still process that $50 reconnect fee if the customer was disconnected for non-payment. Are those fees adjusted off the accounts prior to final billing and final collections activities, such as third-party collection agencies? Again, the fees aren't processed to the account until a reconnection actually occurs, so we don't charge those fees until that actually happens. Are there PCI concerns based on the token you get back? Is it a token, in parentheses? It is a token. So if you were to look at this, you would see an ampersand, 4 or 5 letters, a couple of numbers, and then you see the last 4 numbers that are actually the true number of the credit card. There really isn't any way, if you don't have access into the server that holds the tokenization functionality, and you actually have the program to run the detokenization to be able to get to that token. So it really is as safe and secure as I think that really any of us in these days and time can make it. So I certainly, from my perspective, am very grateful to be in the position that we're in now, considering all of the companies that I think we've all read about and the issues around data security. But it is a token. Do you take credit cards in the field or field collections using the same interface? We do not. We do not have any collections out in the field any longer, and we changed that about 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago, and made that decision to suspend doing field collections. What is the name of the SAP module that you implemented, and is it new? BCM, the Business Communication Management module, was the IVR piece, and they actually have a new name for it that they just came out with, and I think it's a contact solution. It's a product that they bought from a European company and integrated into SAP. It actually will connect with Oracle or a number of different ERP solutions, since it was not an original SAP development. So that was the IVR part of it. The customer portal part, we're still using the old UCES functionality, but we actually put a face on it that Cyber helped to build for us, and Cyber Consulting has worked with some other utilities to take the same functionality that we developed in conjunction with the utility in Denver and made that available to other utilities. So Cyber can actually help you out with that if you were interested in moving forward with that, and that was something that we developed starting back in 2012. Does the reconnection order generate in your customer information? How does it check for technician availability? Is it standard 3 days out? It actually is reaching. We use CGI PragmaCAD for our automated dispatch, and it's actually got a technician availability there, and it is actually doing a check based on the availability that's been set in PragmaCAD. And the last question that I have here, and we're probably about out of time, is what was the biggest challenge during your implementation? Probably the biggest challenge that most of us face on almost any implementation, and that is conversion. And we had to retrieve so much information from our e-bill vendor and from a couple other different vendors to try to pull back into our system and reestablish those customers in our portal, and that was the thing that kept me up very, very late for about the last week before go live, trying to ensure that we had scrubbed that data and made sure that what we were pulling into our system was good and valid. I see that we're at the end of our time. I appreciate everybody's time. The questions were great. I hope that it was of value to you, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will be glad to help you out in any way that I can. And I look forward to seeing everyone in Charlotte next year.
Keith, thank you so much for your time. You did a great presentation, my friend. We are at the top of the hour, so we want to be mindful of everyone's time, and we want to thank our attendees for joining us today. One quick note I want to make everyone aware of. Our award submissions for the Expanding Excellence Awards has been extended until January 16th. Any utility submitting an award entry will receive a 50% discount on up to 5 Conference 39 registrations. So visit our website for more information. Again, Keith, thank you for joining us. All of our attendees, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in Charlotte. Have a good day.